All right, friends, we're back again for another round here. Today's special guest, Mayor Izzo. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right. What do you think, Brad?
I hit the ground running here. A lot of action. You know, we had Jeff Flanagan on before. We told that we weren't going to post that until we got Mayor Izzo on. So here we are.
Yeah.
So we'll reveal those next week. But happy to get some questions out there, and anything you have to say, you know, we'll go right around. We do edit. This is not live, so feel free to be as open as you want. But this should be fun. But Wesley, take it away. What do you want to start with?
Wow. Well, I mean, we've gone a bit political here. That wasn't really
I know
the intention.
it wasn't the intention on this, but
tis the season.
It
I
is
guess.
the season. We'll come back around.
Yeah. So
Bear with us.
welcome. What's new in your life? Let's hear it. I mean, we want to know more than just the mayor. We want to know about you. What's going on?
Well, we're really busy right now, obviously.
Yeah.
Lots going on. As a matter of fact, when I leave here, I'm having lunch with a potential developer, somebody looking at Rome for a potential project. Lots, I'm busy.
Are you having any fun?
Yeah. This is
It's
a very intense job. I think
Yeah.
people don't understand that you're never not the mayor 24 hours a day. And if you're doing this job right, you have to be committed to it. So, if the phone rings or you get a text, sometimes I don't know what's going to happen during the course of a day. A couple months ago, we got a phone call that the lieutenant governor is in Rome and he'd like to have a half hour in about 10 minutes. Well, you're not going to say no to him. So, you have to rearrange your whole day.
good person to have on your side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so things are always happening. But I was trying to get out a lot in this type of weather at this time of the year through the fall. In the dead of the winter, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
But try to get around and to the restaurants and the other retail opportunities. We've been out on the streets talking to people in the different wards with Walk with the Mayor. So we brought Walk with the Mayor program back after an absence because of COVID, and the eviction moratorium. The landlords' hands were really tied during the eviction moratorium. They couldn't evict people for almost 2 years. And they had no
Wes,
income
how's that working
for
for you?
almost
Yeah.
2 years. Wes would know, right?
I know this one.
Might have
Yes.
a property
Yes.
or two.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
It was free rent. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Except for your landlord.
Man, I should have
Right.
hit it up.
Yeah.
and it really impacted the courts. So even though they lifted the moratorium last year, we knew there were 150 cases backlogged. So you really couldn't approach someone and say, look, we think your porch is falling off or your roof needs to be repaired. They didn't have any money to do that. They needed to get those tenants out, try to recover some rent, or some of the government programs, recover money there. So we spent our efforts doing that last year, really helping landlords to access programs where they could recover some of the rent money through the government, and or retailers when they were getting back into business, helping them to reopen the business, never to close again, no matter what happened. And because there were just so many regulations around it. So that took a lot of time. But, we're finding in the neighborhoods now, we've had codes looking at properties, we want landlords to be accountable. And for the most part, they are. But what we're finding, which is kind of distressing, is we found at least 3 cases. A woman has a collapsed garage. She would like nothing better than something has to happen with it. But she doesn't have the resources to do that. We have another woman, porch issue. Does she fix the porch? She's on a limited income, or does she feed her grandchildren? We're finding those, and that's why I recommended that we start a residential rehabilitation program through the ARPA funding of $1.2 million. $25,000 per person, you can make a big impact in neighborhoods, and we can help people that really do need the help. They don't want to live like that, but they have to make decisions. And with inflation rising the cost of everything, including food and energy, the decisions come down to I have to feed my family, I have to keep the house warm. I can't fix the garage.
Yeah,
So
it's
we can help there.
It was tough because you didn't have money coming in because they didn't have to pay if you were at a certain level, which then snowballs into, like you were saying, now everything's higher. And they didn't have the money, so more expensive, less money coming in. How do you expect the landlords? The big wigs, they have resources, but the smaller properties that are running, dual
Right, with just thin margins.
Thin margins. I mean, it's not exactly
tough to get on their tushies about keeping their properties perfect.
I think the cost to side a house has pretty much tripled from just a few years ago because of the inflation. The products contain petroleum. Roofing is the same way. So it's very difficult right now. So hopefully, we could help maybe 30, 40 families to repair property. We'll see what happens.
That's great. So with that, one question I gave Jeff right away, and I feel like, in all fairness, I have to give to Jackie.
Is this the opening?
This is a tough one. Peanut butter, are you a creamy or crunchy person?
I like creamy.
Yes.
I just had some.
Am I the only person who likes crunchy peanut butter?
Well,
It's a little more interesting.
I told you last episode that I'm sorry I've been making you creamy peanut butter PB&Js. I mean, that's probably why you failed on the U.S. Open.
That's probably why
because I made you
terrible. Yeah,
creamy. Well,
Do you now during speed golf? Is that one of the proteins that you use?
Oh, there is nothing consumed during speed
Nothing
golf.
consumed.
Yes.
well,
There's no time for that.
for his
Traditional golf, you'll get a little snack in between, but speed golf,
so
you're just going at it.
I caddied for him for the U.S. Open qualifier over in Rochester, and I got some snacks together, Gatorade, made him PB&J, but I used creamy, and that's probably why you just had it, and then you're like, this sucks. It's like, now I'm gonna play.
No, it's great. It brought the attention that I think crunchy's a little more intrigue there, but that's all right.
It rips the bread.
So where was the qualifier?
At Greystone, Links at
Wow.
Greystone,
Yeah.
in Rochester. Nice course.
Yeah, how did you do?
Not well enough.
It was tough. It was wetter than
It
RCC,
was long
if you can
and wet.
imagine.
Oh, really?
If you can
It was
imagine it wetter than RCC, yeah.
and not quite to my strengths, but we hung in there. I mean,
Yeah, but to be able to even have the experience.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
Both
fantastic.
fast and slow. All right. Okay, now we got that important stuff out of the
Well,
way.
I
Let's-
just had to know.
No, it's fair.
So at least we know both of them can agree on something.
Yeah.
Because Jeff too liked the creamy, so
I think you're in the
there is
minority
precedent that
for the
there is
crunchy.
something there.
Yeah,
that they can
there's
agree
some
on.
common ground?
Yes,
All right.
common ground. And we
Great
can
for the
build
next
from
debate.
that.
All right.
All right, so you've had two great terms. Looking for a third.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of unfinished business. The DRI, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, is not complete yet. In fact,
So you got what, 10 million for that, right?
yeah.
Originally.
Yes, 10 million. Yeah, probably we've leveraged that. It's probably tripled the investment down there now. Downtown is really changing, and for the good. I always say that when we're finished with all the projects, unfortunately, we probably will have undone all of urban renewal, if you can believe that.
Well,
Times
times change and things change.
Yeah.
I've pretty much redone everything my father did at the Rome Country Club. I think
Yeah.
I've torn down every building he built.
I'm trying
And
to. I
redone
can't
everything.
sell the thing, but I'm, in 1970.
But times change and
DRI.
needs
Well,
change.
Each
And
administration, Griffo, Brown, and myself, we all did projects that had to undo some of that renovation. The Living Bridge was unworkable. It leaked from the day that it opened. Jim restored a portion of Washington Street, which was a great idea, so that you could have access to the former bank building, which is now offices, and put some more on-street parking there. The pedestrian mall idea, I think, probably looked good to people, but they forgot that we're not in Arizona. We have 6 months of usually pretty hard winter.
that's being kind. It feels
Yeah.
longer
Yeah.
than that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and wind, and even when there's not snow on the ground, I mean, it's windy, it's 40, it's raw cold. It's
Even
just
if-
not conducive.
Well, even if it's 80 and sunny, nobody wants to walk more than 2 blocks. So, I mean,
You've got that right.
We're Americans.
We're
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that is.
Must drive.
Unless we have a bar crawl, we're not
Right.
going very far.
You're right, because we always get complaints. People can't park right in front of the door somewhere. We couldn't have enough parking spaces to put someone in front of someone's door every time you wanted to go to a store or a restaurant. We're spoiled. We're
Right.
spoiled. But yeah, so
And those parking garages are at the end of their life, right? I mean,
well, and 40 plus years ago when they were conceived and they signed agreements and everybody thought it was great. They built apartment buildings. Where are you going to park? Oh, we'll park in the garage. Well, the George Street garage was failing so badly that it was crumbling apart. There were piles of concrete throughout the garage.
Real
James
comforting.
Street,
Yeah, that doesn't give you much confidence.
No.
Yeah. No.
James Street garage, we originally thought would be a renovation. But when we got the structural engineers in there, you can't see it, but everything underneath lights up red. The rebar's failing, the concrete's failing. And, I went back and looked in time at newspaper articles. When they were building those garages, they were already complaining about the quality of the concrete at the time of
really?
construction.
Well, that's not great.
Yeah. So, but one of the outgrowths of that, so from a public safety liability purpose, they have to come down. And we probably got 15 years more life out of them than we should have, really. And to build back, try to build those back, even if we built a 2-deck, it's very, very expensive, probably $15, $18 million, probably more now with inflation, and you're really only going to buy 10 years. So it's not a good investment.
Right. I don't know if there's that much demand for parking there anyway, right?
There isn't. We're going to have more than enough parking. We have more than enough parking now.
Just surface parking,
But
right?
the one caveat of the whole thing that everyone forgets is, so George and Arms was built right across from the parking garage on George Street.
Right.
Rome Mall Apartments was built kitty corner to the parking garage on James Street. Those residents are used to covered parking. Now we're creating surface parking lots. In the wintertime, we have to plow the parking lots. And we don't have any overnight parking from November 1st to April 30th for a reason, because we can't plow. And if we do plow and somebody's parked there, they're going to be plowed in. We can't shovel them out. So that's one of the reasons that we have recommended a canopy system for James Street. We want to see how well that will work, and then we should replicate it at George Street. The George Street parking lot is not a permanent surface yet, and we did that on purpose because we knew if we have to take James Street down, let's find out what's going to happen between the two before we make George permanent.
That permanent and go all in.
We might have to do something different there, and we were thinking about the apartment buildings. So I know that the canopy probably has been
Kind of like the air
subject-
lofts, how they did the
Yes.
Carport things?
Just
Yes.
like those. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that seems
that-
sufficient.
That
Yeah.
proposal has been subject of a lot of discussion. But the reason is, if we can't provide any covered parking to cut down on the plowing,
Right.
then the only alternative we're going to have is if people park there in the winter months, they're going to get plowed in because we have to at least make access to the lots. So that's the thinking behind that. We're changing the dynamic, but we have to because the garages are a public safety hazard. So we're working through that. So I think some of the DRI, like downtown is a construction area, and it will be a construction area for the next couple of years. Once we get past that and we start to settle down and the dust settles, I think it's going to be really nice. But in the meantime, we're going to have to put up with a lot. The City Hall renovation really needs to take place, but the main construction area is going to be the lobby. Because the curtain wall is failing there, we're going to bring the building together. So we're going to have some challenges as to keeping the city clerk's office open and functioning, making sure that people can get to the assessor so that we can stamp deeds and that people can get maps, access to the tax office so people can pay taxes.
That is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to have challenges during construction to do that, and we're getting ready for that. So there's a lot of complicated projects that I don't think you can change the administrative team out right now. Even we're in the midst of replacing the city's main interceptor sewer line. 90% of our waste goes through this line underneath the Mohawk River to the wastewater treatment plant. 2 miles of piping. Very intricate project, $13+ million. That's going to take all of this construction season probably into 24. So we're just doing things that we're going to be doing the Railroad Street Bridge, replacing the deck on that. James Street Bridge will be done after that. I think that's $2.4 million. We have a big project happening out on Erie Boulevard from James Street intersection to Madison Street, $2 million project there. Going to take the service road out and create more on-street parking on Erie Boulevard, and then also increase safe pedestrian crossings from West Dominick Street to Freedom Plaza and back. You know, because we have such a great area. Freedom Plaza, other than the J.C. Penney space right now, which there is movement there, it's full. So, and then Dominick Street has come back to life. I mean, the arts corridor that your dad envisioned.
Yes. A few moons ago. Yeah, right.
Well, it's really there. You know, you've got the Capitol Theater renovation and
been great.
Bringing the marquee back has been awesome.
That is a great
everyone.
look.
No, it looks
when you
good.
come over the bridge into town, you see that lit up. It's nice.
Fantastic.
Right.
But on any given night, you've got people down there that are taking vocal lessons, guitar lessons, drums, dance, live performance going on at the Capitol Theater, movies in Cinema Capitol, Franca's, the wine bar, live entertainment there. Cappuccino's the balanced chef during the day. We've got a lot of activity, and now we're just putting an RFP out for what we call the mural building, 233, 235. We took that back in foreclosure for a reason. That's a critical building there now. We had to get that back under the city's control. We won a $2 million restore grant, so the developer will have a $2 million
Oh, good, because
incentive
that
on
building
that.
looks pretty rough. Is it
It's very
structurally
rough,
okay?
yes.
It can.
Well, it needs that
It's
$2 million.
salvageable. It needs a $2 million.
Yes.
Usable. I know those just like, let's just get rid of this thing and start over.
But you can envision a beautiful mixed-use project.
That could be
there
cool.
with
It's a
apartments and
skinny building,
commercial.
but it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, it was a furniture store. Yeah. So that project will be getting underway sometime this year. We're going to do improvements to what we say the Engelbert's lot. That's a city-owned lot. We're going to make that a lot more user-friendly, light it up, so that people realize you can park there, you just walk up the stairs, and you're across the street. We
Make
have
it
to
a
get
welcoming
people-
site. Yes. Right.
We have to get people used to different patterns downtown.
Sure.
Because for almost 40 years, we had no nightlife down there. Now all of a sudden, you go down at night, there's a lot happening.
There's some action.
Yeah.
Well, on the music thing, we talked about this a little bit. Our building, if we had more time and maybe a little more money, our building is secluded, so you can have drum lessons, you can have a studio recording area, you could do stuff like we're doing right now there. Jesse Trupiak, who leases space right by the Capitol Theater, he times his drum lessons around the movies and stuff like that. And our building is built like it's basically a fall shelter over there.
Right,
It was
that
not going to
thing's-
fall down, but it's part of the arts district
It is.
technically, and I think it would have been a great studio in general for recordings and audio video stuff.
There's a lot to do with that space. It's
There's
almost
a lot to do with that space, and it actually has parking.
I love the placement of that building downtown. I think that's a great opportunity for someone. You're right. It's never falling down. It's structurally solid.
the thing is a beast.
Yeah.
It's a tank. Well,
We
that's why
just have to-
contractors hate it, because
Right,
we
they do.
can't morph it. It's 2 foot thick walls, and
There's not enough windows.
No,
Yeah.
it's great,
But it's going to be the right building for someone.
Yeah.
We just we have to keep our eyes open, and we have to listen to what people need.
So the one thing I keep hearing, and I don't think it's a big thing for you to fix if it really is an issue, but it gave us a great headline a couple months ago, was the communication that I keep hearing, that there's lack of communication. I don't get this communication. I forgot who the headline came from.
Common Council.
Common
The Common
Council
Council
meeting.
seems to be cranky with you.
And
Is that like a healthy separation of powers, or is that what's going on there?
Is there any insight on the communication aspect? Well, whether it's between the public and you or the Common Council, I just can't put my head around it.
I think, in general, legislative bodies and the executive are always having some sort of issue with the legislators always thinking they're not getting enough information. Our department heads are available to the legislators every day, email, phone, and they're very transparent in disseminating information. All of the information cannot come from the mayor's office, because lots of times if someone calls in and they have a problem, we know exactly how to fix the problem. We need to get them to the proper department so they can begin taking care of it. I don't know how much more transparent we can be. We're out there right now. We're doing community engagement. We just had 3 days in City Hall for 3 of the projects downtown, the Gansevoort and Veterans Parks. The TAP project that I mentioned on Erie Boulevard, getting community feedback on that. So I think we do that all the time. at Woodhaven, we had 3 rounds of community engagement. We're doing that right now on the corridor study for West Chestnut Street. We just had the second community engagement with the county. We applied for a grant through the county, and so county planning department is involved with that with us. The engineers were there. So I think that, feedback is what you make of it. There's ways to communicate. We have people communicate all the time through the website on the contact page. All of those come to me. I usually answer, even if we send it out to another department, I'll have an email back to whoever wrote to us just to say, here's how we can take care of this. We're going to send it on to someone else. They're going to get in touch with you so that we can fix it, and then we follow it. The 311 app, that was never there. We brought that in, I think, in 2017. That's been great. So lots of people use that. They report things like potholes, trees, sidewalks, garbage. If they see garbage in the street, somebody just dumped it somewhere. We wouldn't know because we can't be everywhere. And so we respond to all of those as well. And we let people know, especially with potholes. After the winter, we get lots of those. But animal issues. Sometimes public safety. We tell people if there's a public safety issue, too much noise, don't put it through the app. You need to call 911.
That might be police thing.
Right.
Yeah,
the police aren't going to see it that quickly. But there are other things. Codes. Lots of issues that come through there for codes. And so now we have that forwarded on to whoever handles that. And then there's a record of it because we have one person that does interact with the people individually. And if it's something that needs to be followed up on, high grass is another one, especially at this time of the year. So I think we have lots of avenues. And, legislation comes out 5 days before the council meeting. That's an ample amount of time if they have questions. And we send out all of the contract, not just pages. We changed that when we came in. So if they want to take the time, the information is there. And a lot of times our department heads will write an email more detailed to them prior to the meeting explaining some of the resolutions and why, especially when we're asking to have resolutions to support applications for grant projects. So I feel comfortable that we communicate very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Well, strong answer. It's like you've done this before. All right, so if you are successful again, you're in for another 4. Mm-hmm. How long do you keep going? What's the next plan? What comes after that?
We've got some. What comes after that?
Yeah, I mean, how long are you going to do the mayoral thing?
Oh gosh,
do you have any?
I don't look at anything beyond the one term.
So you're trying to get through November and then figure it out after that?
Yeah. I said from day one when I first ran, if we weren't making a difference, I would step aside and let someone else. But we are making a difference, and we have as I said earlier, we have a lot of unfinished business. This is not a change election. We're doing very well. We've got the city really on a very good track, especially financially. We were not in a good financial situation 8 years ago. We had barely enough money in the bank to sustain ourselves for even one payroll. We have remedied that ship. We've stabilized taxes. But, when we stabilize taxes, we are not sacrificing service. Services are still happening at a high quality. We make sure that all of our departments have the latest and greatest equipment so they can do their jobs to the best of their ability. Those things are important. But one of the other things I'm most proud of is we have gone through all of our city-owned facilities where our people work off-site, and we have done maintenance projects in those facilities that needed it: roofs, painting, replacing floors, the former outside highway up on Madison Street, which was always kind of an eyesore for the neighborhood. We went through, renovated all of that. Now it fits into the neighborhood. It looks good. We try to plant flowers there. We put a flagpole. We paint. So we have to be a good neighbor. The animal control building is another good example. That was a terrible facility. I wouldn't have
next
left
to the post office, right? Is that the one? Yeah. I drive by that and I was like, what does that look like in there? What's happening in that building?
We're going to hold an open house there so that people can see, but
I'll be the first one. I'm so intrigued.
yeah, it
Like,
was.
Are there actual animals?
I can't tell you how bad it was. I would not have left my dog there.
Really?
Absolutely not.
Ugh.
It was horrible. So we went out and looked for some money to help us to renovate that facility. Actually, we had some money from Senator Griffo from the state, and then there was city money. So we've replaced the roof. We've done everything there. And now when Ag and Markets comes in here, we're like a model facility. And thank God we did that, because when COVID hit, we had no idea there would be COVID. But we did have an idea that maybe we were going to have a better facility where we might have to adopt dogs out in a situation where all the shelters got full. And that's exactly what happened. All the shelters, everything, the rescues, for quite a while there, especially after the eviction moratorium, unfortunately, at the end of every month, when people were being evicted, they just let the dogs go. So we had a very good place for them to be housed. And in some instances where we couldn't get them out to a shelter or a rescue, we've had a few adoptions through there. So we're really confident that if anything happens, our responsibilities for dog control are very good now in the city of Rome. We're proud of that. But those are things that you've got to build into your annual budget. You should be doing annual maintenance at city-owned facilities, just like at your house.
Sure, you do those
Because then they go
PMs
too
or
far,
else
and then you're ending up spending
then
more.
you're in
than-
trouble. Yeah.
And if we did that, we wouldn't be spending $6 million at City Hall right now. You know, if you did that throughout the years, we always have these big bills because we're not paying attention to our infrastructure. So you'll see throughout the course of our administration, we have done that. And we've done a lot of it through our operating budget. And that's the way that it should be. I don't think the parking garages would have been in as bad a shape as they are, but there just wasn't an annual preventative maintenance program. Just like you seal your driveway, you've got to seal that concrete. And you should have been doing it probably every other year. It's expensive, but you built a facility. You have to take care of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about maintenance of driveways, Wes, but you just won't let me spend the money.
He loves a good driveway seal. He really does.
You know,
It goes a long way, because I'll tell you.
see, just talk to him, would you, Jackie?
Look at,
spray
this,
paint it
look at
black.
the City Hall
Looks
parking
good.
lot.
Yeah.
So City Hall parking lot, we got in there, and, you know, when was this last sealed? Well, no one really knew. So that's not a good
That's
sign.
not a great sign if no one knows.
So we said, okay, we've got to seal this thing because it's cracking, and so we did. Well, we thought it was like the manufacturer's seal was bad. I'm not so sure now, because after we sealed it, all of a sudden all this white started coming to the surface. It was probably old salt. It had just never been done. So now we can't get a good seal on it. It hasn't been done enough. We really should be looking at some point probably at a new parking lot. But again, that shouldn't be the case, but it is, because we're not taking care of the infrastructure. That's the other reason that with this ARPA money, it's time for us to do the Rome Martin Community Center renovation.
Is there a deadline on the ARPA money right now, or how far does that go out?
Well,
before
ARPA
it's-
has to be
could be pulled, right? If
Yeah.
it's not used,
It
right?
has to be completely spent out by 2026. So that's not a long time in government years. We need to get this money out the door. Then there are 110 pages of rules around ARPA.
Well, I'm sure it's probably
It's unbelievable. So if you don't stick to these certain categories like water, sewer, you risk doing a project that they could claw back later, the money. We have all of our projects vetted through Mohawk Valley Economic Development District. They have a technical specialist there that does nothing but help us with this, which is great.
That's great.
So we don't propose anything that we think would ever get clawed back. You know, you have a change in administration. The Republicans really don't like ARPA. So if the president changes in the next election, and say the Congress and the Senate change, they're going to be looking for that. Those audits, everything will be audited after 2026. You don't want to be involved in an audit where they say, well, you spent $2 million
Then you got
doing
to show
this.
that you got to pony up.
Yeah.
and you probably have
and-
enough projects anyway that are very slam dunk qualifiers that you don't need to push the envelope with others, right? I mean, you got
All of
enough to
our-
do.
Right.
Yeah.
All of ours
It's
are.
not like you're
and
running out of projects.
Right. We're trying to stick to things that are going to do the greatest good for the entire community. So that's why you see us doing a lot of water and sewer extensions, because that builds out our water and sewer system, but it brings more rate users on.
Brings revenue
It
in,
opens
sure.
and it
Yeah.
opens development. Nescentia is a good example. Participating there to extend the sewer line up Potter Road so that they can build cottages, but then it also will impact the Wilson land. So now it makes their land more valuable to sell, possibly for residential housing.
All that farmland to
Yes,
across
because
from, yeah.
now all of a sudden the sewer isn't too far away. We supplemented Buck's project out on Merrick Road. So we're helping him extend sewer there, and he's building townhouses. He wants to move to single family next, and there's demand. And of course, Woodhaven, we're doing all of the water and sewer there. That has to be done. It was just old infrastructure.
Yeah.
But that's a great investment for that neighborhood.
Right.
And that will pay off for us. So things like that, and then spending money on our healthcare system. You know, this money came to us as a result of a virus. If it's a miss if we don't spend money on healthcare. So the hospital, the health here,
Rome
Rome
Health,
Health
right.
is doing a tremendous job. Really,
They
right
are.
now we've got great leadership there, making the main campus the main focus. The $8 million medical office building, fantastic. Now you're going to turn your page to the surgical suites, 4 state-of-the-art operating rooms. Well, you cannot do that and not have a modern, functioning intensive care unit. They go together. And in our community, 33,000 emergency department visits last year. That's a lot for us. Without a
That's a
great,
big number.
it's a
That's
huge number.
a lot of zeros there for.
Everyone goes once. Isn't that our population? Wow, we're very
I didn't get my
accident prone.
quota in. I didn't get my quota in. We're gonna hoof.
Who's going twice and 3 times? What are they doing? No, it's huge.
It
and,
just
so
shows you
you're
our
part of that.
catchment area.
Yeah.
And
Right. It's much more than just Rome. I mean, there's a big northern area and out to Camden.
and there's a lot of people that coming into the emergency department that need intensive care, and they aren't stable enough to go out. So we need a great intensive care unit there, and that makes us a very strong, viable hospital. So if we're building housing and encouraging people to live here, we have to have a good healthcare system, and we have to have a good school system.
Mm-hmm.
They're the backbone of the community.
They are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with the school. Any Staley updates?
Yeah, Staley. What's going on over
I
there?
know there's some FEMA and some other stuff. Oh, any update on what's going on there?
So, FEMA, it's great when you see the natural disaster happening and everybody from FEMA is on television.
Great PR.
And, yes. And
Yeah.
we're here to help you. Well, guess what? FEMA goes away very quickly, and then it becomes a negotiation. They basically have made the school district start back from day one and justify why a school could not be rebuilt on that site. I think we're by that now.
I would hope so.
They understand that we're
Do we
below
have
the
the tally?
floodplain.
Yeah, tally marks for the
how
number
many
of floods.
Yeah, how many watermarks do you need on the lockers
Right.
there?
Oh, the Ducks
before-
are back in class today.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's repeat this again. Yeah.
Right.
on.
So now I think we're into the money stage. So really, how much money is it? They know that it has to be built at another site, and we do need the building. So the negotiation continues. It took the community of Owego 11 years to finally get the school built and the money from FEMA. So I hope we're not going to have to wait that long. And we've done everything we have engaged Senator Schumer's office. In fact, I got involved in it. It's really the school districts has to justify it, but it was moving so slowly, and they were getting frustrated. So we set up a Zoom earlier this year with Senator Schumer's office and some people in Washington and say, hey, you've got to get off the dime here. We're stymied. We need to redistrict. We need to move these buildings around, but we just took 600 kids and crammed them into the existing buildings that are left. We don't have another building that can function like this. So we did our best to really lay it on thick, and it worries me if we were to change school administration right now, because once you do that with another government agency, you risk having to start all over in this process, because obviously new people coming in, they have no historical knowledge of what went on. And, then there's other government officials that'll take advantage of that, and they'll move it further down their pile. So we've got to be really cognizant of that and careful moving forward.
Interesting. So we have no idea what's going to happen. It's in process, but or what's going to happen with the
think
former Staley site? We'll just
the former Staley
just
site
doze that
is-
thing and
Yeah, that's not a player. I believe there will be another building. It will not be there. Staley will be demolished. we want that as part of the project, that the money's
Right.
there.
That's-
We demolish Staley.
That's a project in itself, for sure.
Yes. And then, what do you do with all the land? Do we think about just having that become an extension of Pinty Field? Because it's not really good for anything.
Mm-hmm.
It floods.
Yeah, the record of that is not going to be conducive
That's
for
going to be a tough sell. It can be a
Yeah, I
great
wanna
real
build
estate
there.
agent
Yeah.
to hawk that one.
Yeah.
Right.
There's too much flooding. And, the last flood really proved if you have a real flood, I mean, we were flooded from Culverton to 6th Street. You couldn't see anything. Pinty Field was completely underwater. That's another thing. We are we are negotiating with FEMA and the state. So the way this works for both us and the school district, we work with the state's Department of Homeland Security. They then take it up the chain to FEMA. So that's the process. And so when the money comes back, it'll come back like that. So for Pinty Field, we are awaiting $1 million project there. And we will do a lot of things that happened as a result of the flood, and now we need to renovate. But we cannot spend any. If we were to spend any money, let's just say, I think the fence was a subject of commentary lately. If we were to replace that fence right now, that would not be eligible to be reimbursed. And there's no reason for the taxpayers to have to pay for that when we know it's going to be part of $1 million project. And it won't be on our budget. It'll be coming from FEMA. So unfortunately, with these government programs, they're reimbursable and you have to wait. If you spend money before they award you money, that takes it off the docket and they just reduce the award by that much. So
patience is a bit of a virtue here.
You have to have
Yeah.
patience, yeah. And this is it's a tough agency. I mean, in their defense, let's look around the country. How many natural disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes? I mean,
Right.
communities completely wiped out.
Right.
In Kentucky, in Florida, people told me that there were many people down there still in tents where the hurricane
like Fort
was most
Myers area.
intense.
Yeah, right.
So we're not alone in this, and this is a big country. It's a lot for one government agency to handle, but I think we are moving along in the process, and so I think these projects are going to be approved. We just have to have more patience.
So keeping the same administration, do you mean in terms of City Hall, or do you mean like Peter Blake at the school district?
I think
All the above?
I think the school district has to be careful in if they're making a decision to turn out an administration, especially in the midst of this FEMA negotiation. We can't start over again. We're already, 4 years into this? We can't set ourselves back that much.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
So when we talked to Jeff, he was talking about a field house, which has been brought up many times over the years. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Kennedy Arena that we just converted for indoor use is going really well.
Yeah. Our buddy Justin is in charge of that a lot for Parks and Rec over there. Justin
Lazowski.
Yeah, Justin.
Great guy.
He's awesome.
He's a good guy.
He's my man.
Yep. We actually, there's open gym there every day, very well attended. We have an adult league on Thursday nights, 8 teams. We had a wrestling tournament there, about 200 participants. We had a basketball showcase.
I went to that wrestling thing.
Yeah, it was cool.
It was wild.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Fully support the event. I just can't get into it personally.
I couldn't either, but the kids wanted to go, and I
it's-
was like, "All right, let's give it a go." And it was wild. It was an interesting.
Kids love wrestling.
Yeah, I don't know what the
it
draw
is.
is.
I know.
Yeah.
But we went. What the heck?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was good, and we had a basketball showcase. There were over 200 kids at that. So, I think right now, that's serving its purpose. Things, we can only afford so much in our community. We need to get the Y built. That has to
I
happen.
wanted to ask you about that, but I'm like, does Jackie really have
then
to
I'm gonna
answer
get all
for
fired up,
But,
and
but
then
does she have to answer for the why? I mean,
Well, I'm
I mean,
on
you're
the
trying to
steering
help.
committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, so it is. What's the scoop on the why?
The scoop on the Y is it is going to happen.
Okay.
The groundbreaking should take place later this summer.
Oh,
To
good.
be
So it's
open in
it's imminent.
2024.
Oh, good.
Now, that's a $20 million project. Of course, the costs have risen on that. But it's a badly needed facility. So I think things have to come in progression. If you look at what's happening in our community right now, the Capitol Theater just came off probably a couple $1 million campaign to supplement the DRI award. The hospital is in the midst of raising probably $15 million or so to supplement the surgery center. The Y is raising $20 million. That's a lot.
It's a lot of money for the community to buck up with money. Right.
And then you talk about a field house. We're going to have some of those facilities in the new Y. For the city to take on that sort of a burden, where does the money come from? There is not money out there. We did get a CFA for the Y of $2 million, but that's because of what the Y's mission is as a nonprofit. No state agency is giving the city any money to build a field house. So you're talking about a $20 million bill, at least, we know, because we're building a Y, which is very similar. Where's the money going to come from our taxpayers? And then how about the operating expense after it opens? Mm-hmm. So I think that we have to keep ourselves focused. So we have Kennedy Arena.
So Kennedy's been outfitted for
It's already an asset.
You're right.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we'll build upon that. And it's doing really well now. In fact, everybody that's playing basketball there is having a great time. And we're adding pickleball. So pickleball is added there next week. It'll be every morning, I think 9 to noon. And then there's some afternoon hours so that we have an indoor facility. We have 3 pickleball facilities. It's crazy.
Do you think whoever came up with pickleball should have rethought that name if they knew it was going to catch on this wildly?
I know. It was probably like, let's just
call it pickleball.
Cocktailing late into night and
no one will pay attention. We're just going to create this game, and then all of a sudden, I mean, this thing is huge. I keep waiting for it to fizzle out, but it keeps getting.
Yeah. So at Linwood, the neighborhood has a league. They're there all the time. So there's always people there playing pickleball. We did some courts at Franklin's Field, but we had to leave some tennis courts. I mean, there are still people that play tennis.
Tennis is a great game.
Yep. And I think we might have one at Pinty, but now we're going to add indoor at Kennedy. So if the weather is inclement, you can come indoors. You can rent a court for an hour or two, and so we'll see how that works out. So we've added that in there. We can do, if we take the baskets away, you could probably do some form of indoor soccer, like the club team that plays at the Odd. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to those games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, it's wild.
Intense. Different crowd. For sure. So. It's,
yeah. The only problem with that is you're doing all the fieldhouse stuff at Kennedy Arena in the summer, where the big, selling point of a field house is the winter when there's ice there. So that's not going to help you much.
Right. So what do you do in the wintertime? But in the wintertime, you mostly have everybody is on some sort of a team. Basketball happens in the winter for the schools. So does hockey. Mm-hmm. So does volleyball. So our other gyms throughout the community are in session, and that's where the new Y will come in.
Yeah, what kind of facilities are going to be there? Like, what's the latest and greatest plan?
I think the aquatic center is going to really be nice.
Okay.
It's a reimagining of how do we do swimming.
Okay.
It'll look a lot more inviting, especially to kids.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be neat.
It's pretty cool.
And then, of course, there are going to be gyms. There'll be spin rooms. There'll be cardio rooms. Childcare is going to be huge there. There's going to be childcare.
That's
facility.
Another head scratcher in this area. What a desert we have.
It is. But, we do, and so do a lot of other communities. Mm-hmm. Things are just kind of suffering where that
was a tough COVID one where people in that business, once all those restrictions came, said, this is probably time
to retire,
to
we
check
can
out.
do for because it's not, it's more about the qualifications to host a daycare that really makes it difficult, right?
It is.
Is there anything
and it
that
should
can
be a little bit tough, right? You don't want
absolutely.
anyone doing
but
it.
But I'm saying if you're a qualified teacher, you would think that might be able to fast track you to take care of kids. I would think if you're in elementary school, you should be able to handle a couple. And I know it goes down to because we looked into it a little bit and all the ratios and everything that it takes there, but the hoops you have to jump through in order to qualify and then maintain. Not to say you want to lax them too far, but at least say, okay, this person at least has an education background. They've gone to their master's. They're a teacher. You would think that might be, hey, here, just take these few courses and then we can
at least to get your region out of a desert situation.
Right.
And
almost emergency style to expedite something.
Unfortunately, New York State, they'll be out front saying, well, we're going to put more money into this. You can't just throw more money at it. They need to look at what are the regulations around it. And you're right. We need to protect the kids. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's first and foremost.
Absolutely.
But some of the ratios are are very difficult. And, that hits at the financial model. You can't be in business and all the money is going out the door in expenses, because then you can never reinvest in the business. And it's very difficult in childcare. We're still very close on one. Trying to get them over the hurdle of the finances matching up to the number of kids. The number of kids, there could be 100 kids.
Is this the one at Airlofts?
It might be there.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, edit that.
We'll be somewhere in the city.
We can edit. Well, I mean, we can edit this out.
Right.
It's because we were approached to try to, but you're right. The numbers are very hard to have anybody outside commit to it unless you're just like, here's my donation.
It gets a little kooky unless you're 100% enrollment from day one and nothing ever goes wrong ever.
Right.
It's still razor thin.
The problem is financing the portion that you need through the bank and making the financials work so the bank is comfortable that you're actually going to make some money and be able to pay the loan. Because on the other side are the restrictive regulations that are forcing you to hire an unbelievable number of staff.
Yep.
It's extremely labor intensive.
It is. And humans are expensive. Yeah.
And the younger the population, the worse the ratios are.
Yeah.
So, we desperately need it, and we're working at that every day, but we have to get over the hurdle of making the bank happy.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Dollars and cents have to make sense no matter how badly you need it. It's no one's just going to say, here you go, and then I don't want my money back. I mean, maybe some of them are out there. But a quick question on the field house. Do we know how much one costs?
Well, the Y is going to be $20 million. So,
and I'm glad to hear it's still big, because my main concern was when I heard
they're going to get
too small.
Too small.
And
too
then you
cheap
don't
on
make
it.
your money back regardless, because it's turning away potential
Right.
income.
It doesn't have that draw
It's
of a big center.
right.
But I'm glad
Well,
they're going big.
I don't think it'll be too small.
Good.
And there's room there to expand. So let's just say that the facility opens and it's doing great, and there's lots of new members, and all of a sudden, wow, we need another gym. They will have the ability to do that. The Fayetteville Y is a great example. The day they thousands of members, bigger catchment area.
Sure.
But I think we're going to be surprised with the location of this Y, how well we will do, because there is no Y to the east. And we already have a lot of people that come here from the east to use the facility.
Yeah.
So, can you dumb down a field house? You can, but that doesn't serve anyone's purpose, because the day that it opens, it's too small. And even if you had a municipal one and you said, well, I'm just going to build a section of turf, we're not going to have any seating, we're just going to have practice there. Who's going to do that? When you already have facilities like Accelerate that you're going to be compared to, like the new Y, Rising Stars even, ICANN has taken that over, and it's still functioning as a great
And they went
place.
their name, Elevate. And the other one is
Accelerate.
Why? It's just wait. Where do we practice today, Leslie? Accelerate, Elevate. I don't know.
Yeah, you're asking your 5-year-old, hey, which one is this?
Yeah.
Right.
Like we should have a better name or a different name. But yeah, well,
And
it's good.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not against it, but
Dollars and
I know
cents have to show up for it.
and I know that at one point in time, this community can only afford so many projects, and we need to finish
going on.
what we're doing.
Right.
We need, and then maybe we can talk about
The
something
RCC
else.
field house.
Yes, sponsoring naming rights.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, if I give you maybe one last question here, if that's all right. Of your 8 years so far, what is the one thing you're most proud of? Like, what's on your highlight reel? If we had a Mayor Izzo highlight reel, what would be on it?
Well, okay, so it's not one thing.
Yeah, you can name a few.
Oh, okay, because the breadth of work we've done is unbelievably large. It's hard when we haven't had this much activity in the city, and I don't know how long. One of the things that we're really proud of, we are over $350 million in private sector investment on top of a like number in the public sector. When have you known a crane to appear anywhere in Rome? We had cranes at the hospital, cranes on Griffiths, cranes downtown building Copper City lofts. So we're moving. When have you had a manufacturing facility built here in your lifetime? $5 million plant at Coal Point. We're on the Christech Wire is going to go on to their fourth expansion, I think.
They've just been
they've been killing it.
Yeah. Collins
Amazing.
Aerospace, which people really don't know about.
Yeah, there's a lot of those-
250 people
yeah.
work there.
A lot of those places
It's
up here in the
fun.
park.
That's a great tour.
Right.
That's some of the
Yes.
stuff they're working on.
Yes.
It's absolutely
And don't
amazing.
step outside the lines.
Don't go outside the line. Watch it.
Owl Wire, which has been
Yeah.
downtown forever. They're buzzing right along. Revere. Okay.
Oh, lighting the
So
that's,
Revere.
that's going to be awesome.
Why are we we've been talking to them for, a few years about relighting the sign. And let's face it, we're all in business, so we understand you can't just commit to relighting. That's a huge project.
Yeah, that's not just redoing some wires. That's
Right.
new
Yeah.
roof. That's new
Yeah.
Everything.
And when
Everything
Ryan
over there.
called and came over a few months ago and said, we're seriously considering this now, well, that was music to our ears. But you have to be in the right financial position to be able to do that. And so it's exciting, but it also shows the growth of Revere's business and that they want to give back to the community, but they want their employees to be proud. The employees want that sign lit as much as anyone else. But financially now they're in a good position. So that's good for Rome because the employment numbers are stable. They are a great community partner. They're busy. A lot of our businesses and the small businesses that I talk to, what's most important to us is how busy are you? I don't care what kind of business you're in. Is your foot traffic up? Yes. We need that to continue. And that's how business grows. Starbucks is going to open here. Okay. Well,
And my wife is scratching at the door trying to get into that place.
I have a savings account now just for Starbucks.
Yeah.
but the reason that that's important is Starbucks does their own market research.
Right. That's a
Right.
great endorsement.
do that.
Right.
Right.
And
They're not dumb. They're not going to build something just because.
And well, look at the location. It's outside Griffiths. It's in the,
North
but
side. Yep.
other retailers follow Starbucks because they know they've already done the research. When Bonaccio Construction, so we just called Bonaccio and said, look, would you come? We want you to come and look at Rome in 2017. They came up, toured them all over downtown, up here at the Griffiths. It just showed them what the city could offer and what our vision was. They didn't just come here after that because they liked me. They came after they did more market research and said, wow, yes, you do have a housing problem here. And it's been proven. I mean, every building of Air City that opens is full. Buck's project on Merrick Road, full. And now he moves to townhouses. So we knew that those gaps were there. So, proud of that we've gotten ourselves building new housing finally, that we are actually building the population. And you can see there's about a 2% or so growth in the property tax. That's a good thing. That means that more people are buying real estate. They're living here. And I noticed, too, the last time I walked the neighborhoods campaigning 4 years ago, there was a lot of turnover to younger people, more families. That was good. And so this year, as we continue walking around, you can see that. And there are more people are investing in their property. So, we feel really good about that because that wasn't happening. Rome was, from my own business standpoint, I couldn't ignore that any longer. My business wasn't growing. Now, our business grows in healthcare. So it should grow on patients seeing doctors. Well, guess what? We were losing population. So they might have seen the same number of patients, but nothing was increasing. And that's because we were not paying attention to building the residential community along with the commercial. The Oroville warehouse, the distribution center, another story. We never even knew we were negotiating with them. We didn't know who they were until we went to a dinner at Turning Stone. The site selector had gotten far enough along. The company wanted to come. We walked in the door. We still don't know. We just sit down at the table. I happened to get next to the executive vice president, and I think it was the CEO. And we're just talking. They're from Tennessee. So we're talking about the University of Tennessee and Pat Summitt, Knoxville, football, basketball, and the whole thing. And within 15 minutes, they looked at me and they said, and the rest of the people are talking. We got like 20 people. They're not listening to us. We're going to tell you who we are. I said, you are? Yeah. We're here only because we wanted to know what the quality of life would be like in this community for our employees. And we like what we're hearing. And then they introduced themselves to me, and then I introduced them to the rest of the table. And that's how the Oroville Warehouse Distribution Center got here after intense negotiations for 5 months. On the rest of it, we had a lot to do yet with the money and the siting and all of that. But a lot of times when these companies come in here, at the end or in the middle of the process, they want to talk to me and they want to know what will be the quality of life for my employees, where are they going to live, where's their health care, what kind of schools do you have, and then how do we integrate ourselves into your community. It's very, very important.
And make sure you have a traffic light and not a circle.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, had to.
Wow.
I heard that was a laugher.
I mean, that was a good one.
Oh, we had to convince the State Department of Transportation. It was tough. I mean, we actually
Of all things, we're
the
arguing
traffic
over
light, right?
over a traffic light versus
they
a
have an
circle.
affinity with roundabouts. And
A lot of Romans do too. But
Yeah. Well, the site
we need a
I would
webcam.
assume those big
We
trucks
still
probably
need
don't
a
love
webcam out
circles
there.
anyway.
well, the site selector for Orgo was not having any of it.
Yeah.
They hate roundabouts because they've had bad experiences in the Midwest with them. And so finally he said to me, look, they put a roundabout in there, the deal's off. And I'm serious. So when we all went
All right, we'll put a traffic light in.
when we all went to Utica and sat
That's
with the DOT, we were very polite. We let them tell us all about the roundabout, why it should be there and not a light and everything. And so finally, when it wasn't really going very well, I looked at the DOT commissioner and said, this is a deal breaker. So you're going to have to tell the community that the 225 jobs that they're promising aren't coming because you don't want a traffic light. So our compromise, though, was there are sensors at the intersections, and when a car meets the sensor, then
It'll override that.
it'll tune the light to go red. Otherwise, it's as pass through as possible, and that's fine. And it helped the school too.
Right, the school,
getting out of
school
there.
needed
yeah.
that.
twice a day is a little thick right there, right?
Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of these things, it can turn on a dime on something that we think is small, but the state was going to have to pay to put that traffic light in there, and they thought a better investment would be a roundabout. In the end, the jobs won. By the way, there are going to be 350 jobs at Orgo by the end of this year. That's how
great.
well that distribution center is functioning.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've been going for almost an hour here, and I appreciate you taking the time. I think we have a lot more to unpack eventually, but good start.
Yeah, great start. And
Thank you.
I got to get to my root canal.
I know.
Yes.
After all
I
this,
have to tell more people about it.
Yeah, you're you're like, hey, I got to go
I got
through
to
this.
get full sympathy credit. I got to go here. It's a root canal. It's just my birth order with poor teeth. That's what it is. It's
is that
nothing to
it?
do with me.
It's just your
Yeah,
genetics.
birth order. The farther you die, I mean, I'm
you're
the third born, so I have stinky
Actually,
teeth.
Wes, I think it's aging.
Is it just getting old?
There it is.
Yep.
You know,
You beat
the
Brad
roots
to it.
wear out.
You beat Brad to it. He couldn't wait to tell me I'm getting old again.
I keep hearing your father come up. I think it's time to bring Pop Ted on.
Bring Teddy Boy.
I mean,
Oof.
from his work in downtown, from you guys wanted a hotel here. Now there's 2, maybe 3, could be
Right,
4. You know, he plays it off
At
but
the
he's-
Orgill
he
site.
had
That was-
something
that
going.
was our
I know
site.
that was your site.
By the way, the Wingate is renovating to a Fairfield Marriott.
I saw them doing
Yeah.
some big work up there.
That's big time.
Well, they
That's like-
haven't
but-
exactly invested in those or kept them up as you talked. I mean, they feel like they've kind of just let it go.
Well, I think
and
they
then-
were looking for.
What
They were
flag?
negotiating for another flag, and let's face it, Marriott's got the best point system.
They do. I mean, I'm not to the executive
We're
platinum as
not
my
to
parents, but I'm
disparage Hilton
on gold.
because
No.
the Hampton is great, but the Marriott point system is
It's
Yeah.
really
it's-
good.
Yeah, it
Well, that's
holds its
exciting.
value.
Yeah.
But thank you again.
You're welcome.
Hopefully
Thank
we can
you.
do this
Thanks
again
for
soon.
having
Coming
me.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.